David Cross is the second vice chair of the Georgia Republican Party, Incorporated. He is a candidate in a contentious race for party chairmanship against the current chairman, Josh McKoon. The 2025 state convention is this June. Cross is a lifelong Georgian living in Suwanee and works in investment and asset management. He owns U.S. Asset Management and participates in several professional and nonprofit boards of directors. Cross has never run for political office, but has financially contributed to several Republican candidates. Cross has been a strong proponent of election integrity and has demonstrated the vulnerabilities of our current voting machine system. We will discuss his take on the current state Republican Party and what he thinks needs to change. The Editorial Interchange podcast aims to give you the best information we have on the issues impacting your community. We don't tell you what to think. We want you to have the information to think for yourself. We always do our best to get you both sides of the debate. And now, on to David Cross. And David Cross, thank you for joining us.
My pleasure, Steve. Thank you for having me.
Well, one of the things we like to do at Editorial Interchange to start off the show, we're big on looking at our local economies and looking at locally owned businesses. And we don't do paid promotions. We do shout outs because we want to help the local businesses in our area. You live in Suwanee. Give us a local business in Suwanee that you can shout out.
I do. So one of my favorite businesses is a company, or is a pizza place called Itala Pizza that's over in Johns Creek. They make their pizza with all natural ingredients, no garbage or anything like that. And one of the coolest things that they do is they import their flour from Italy. So you're getting real Italian flour that doesn't have, glyphosate and other chemicals in it. So I love that place. And my wife and I are huge pizza fans.
And they're in Suwanee.
They're actually in Johns Creek.
Johns Creek. Awesome. Well, when you're in that area, ladies and gentlemen, go visit them. Sounds like the real deal.
Good stuff.
Let's get into the interview here. What got you interested in party politics? Because I know you have never run for elected office, but you are in the Republican Party right now as the second vice chair. And so what got you into party politics?
So in the past, I had been involved just locally with county politics, just a little bit, like, supporting candidates, making calls and that kind of thing, and trying to get other people to support them. And, I wasn't really, involved like in leadership or anything like that. I've been very actively involved in my community with, things like the Boy Scouts and the Hudgens Art Center and the Chamber of Commerce. And, like, I've got this huge list. Let's see, I was on the board of trustees for something called the Georgia Council on Economic Education. I was involved in that for 20 years. So I really had a lot of involvement, like in charity boards and that kind of thing. But in 2023, I had been doing a ton of work trying to figure out how the machines are gamed in Georgia. What are the vulnerabilities that could potentially, happen with our elections? And I started that work on election night in 2020. And in early 2023, a friend came to me and said, you should run for this position as second vice chair of the Georgia GOP. And I said, you know what? I really don't have time for more meetings and, dues and traveling and all that kind of thing. And I said, what would I get out of it? And the person who was trying to recruit me said, well, if you win, then the politicians will have to, they'll have to take your telephone calls and they'll have to meet with you just out of respect for the office. So I said, okay, sign me up. I'll do it. And as soon as I started running, I went out and did my stump speeches, and people said, hey, love your message, but you're never going to win. It's just not going to happen for you. And I asked why, and they said, well, the incumbent has been there before, and his dad writes really big checks. And when you don't win, you need to endorse this other person. And I said, you know what? I'm going to see it all the way through. So I, did all the straw polls, lost every single straw poll. But at the convention in June of 2023, I won resoundingly. I mean, there was no question. I was running against three other people, and there wasn't even a runoff. I won on the first round. So I've been involved since then. And as soon as I got involved, the Georgia GOP, the current chairman just kind of shut me out, had no interest in talking with me, had no interest in harnessing the grassroots people that I know across the state. And, and things just kind of devolved, and we really was never, never actively involved in leadership. I mean, I was involved in the election confidence task force. I headed a committee called the voter roll task, or the voter roll committee, which there weren't any voter rolls to manage, but but we were working on trying to pass laws and pass legislation. So I did a lot of work with regard to staying involved there and helping to pass rules. And so I've been involved in other projects. So but it's all to support the key thing, which is bringing sovereignty back to our elections.
Well, let me ask you this, because you own your own business. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah. As a business owner, and we have a Republican dominated legislature, and all the constitutional officers are Republicans. How is the Republican Party through the state of Georgia handling the business environment? What do you think about the way that things are going with Republicans in charge? Are they creating the right type of business environment, or is there anything that you'd like to see different from the legislature to help businesses?
What I mean, the biggest thing that I want to see is smaller government and smaller government overreach. That's the biggest thing, and I want to see, I'd love to see our income taxes, eliminated in the state of Georgia. Last year we had a $20 billion surplus in the Georgia, in Georgia, and the governor decided he wanted to give back 1 billion out of 20. And here, just to put that math in perspective for everybody, $20 billion divided by 10 million people that all live in Georgia, 10 million, that's $2,000 per person. So if you're married and you got two kids, that's $8,000, that could be coming back to your family. But our government is looking for ways to be able to spend that. And that's, I don't want to see that happen. I want to see the money come back, to the people. I want to see the power come back to the people. And I want us to be in a pro business environment. And Georgia is a fairly good pro business environment. But I still think there's room for improvement.
Well, one of the areas that it says that you've specialized in is election integrity. What have you been doing with that? Tell us.
Oh my gosh. I've been doing so much on election integrity that my wife is frequently referred to as the election widow. Okay, so it all started back in November of 2020. I was one of the first people that figured out how to download the data from the New York Times. And if you saw that that big F curve that showed how things went up, I was one of the people that helped create that. There was a bunch of people that did that. But when I started working on that, I figured, if we spend 6 months, trying to figure out how the dirty Democrats, rigged the election, we'd be able to figure it out. And here we are, over 4 years later, and what we've discovered is that there's about 13 or 14 different ways to manipulate an election. And the work that I did, over the years, I mean, thousands of hours of work and, late night calls and working with, with specialists and technology people all over the country. The work that I did was contributed to President Trump. And in January 2nd of last year, President Trump issued, I think it was a 32-page summary report about election vulnerabilities. My name is cited in the footnotes in that document, and I think that the full report, last I checked, I think it's about 400 pages long. And Tulsi Gabbard was quoting from it a few weeks ago when she said, we know for a fact that our elections are vulnerable, here in the U.S. And President Trump last month, signed Executive Order 14248 to try and encourage states to implement using hand-marked, hand-counted paper ballots counted at the precinct in full view, on camera, and no more machines. And I think that makes a lot of sense because the most civilized nations in the world, that's what they do.
So you're not a fan of the machines like a lot of people aren't. What do you see as being the failure of the machines? What's going wrong with the machines that makes you want to go to hand ballots?
So here's the thing: the machines, banana republics out there, use voting machines to count their ballots. Okay, if you look in Japan, Taiwan, Germany, Italy, France, Spain, there's countries all over the world where they count their ballots in full view at the precinct, and it's for the security that makes it so that that your ballot is not being taken out of a precinct, mixed in with a bunch of other things, or swapped out with others, counted later. That's one thing that could happen with the machines themselves. We've pointed out so many opportunities for data to be either manipulated or not interpreted correctly. That to give you a perfect example, DeKalb County in 2022 had a primary, and there was a lady named Michelle Long Spears who was running for a district commission seat. She lost, all right, and she was the odds-on favorite to win. What was really interesting about her loss is that she had 0 votes in her own home precinct where she and her husband voted for her. So she asked DeKalb County, she said, I think y'all should count these ballots by hand. And DeKalb County said, well, we're going to call the Secretary of State's office. And the Secretary of State's office said, don't you dare count those ballots by hand. You just turn in the results. And DeKalb County, to their credit, said, I think we'll count the ballots by hand. And what they found was that she won. And not only did she win, but they also found 1,805 ballots that were skipped over by the machines. So there's just multiple opportunities for these things not to count correctly. And human beings, I think, are going to be the best arbiters of and the most accurate people with counting those things, particularly if it's done on high definition cameras, because I mean cameras are everywhere nowadays.
Well, I remember there was a Cobb County referendum years ago where they had 70 or 80 more votes than people who voted in the election. And it's like, how do you explain that? The referendum passed, so somebody was juicing the machines.
Well,
But
unfortunately, it's just that's an all too common thing that we're hearing, and it's not just in Georgia. It happens in a lot of places.
yeah, well, I know too. I often tell people, if it's a computer and there's a way to enter it, whether it's a flash drive, a Wi-Fi connection, a hardline connection, it can be hacked. And most people think, oh, security in the computers, anything where you can enter it by any means can be hacked. And I think, that's just something that people have to deal with and recognize. One other thing too is, India, largest democracy in the world, hundreds of millions of people voting, and they get you the results on paper by the end of the night on election night. Right. So if they can do it, by God, I know we can do it. So
can we. I mean, Taiwan counts 14 million ballots in one afternoon, and Georgia has 7 million voters. So if Taiwan can do it, pretty sure we can do it.
Yeah. Well, for the party, you're running for the chairmanship. Yep. The state convention is in June. What made you want to run for the position? And should you get that position, what do you see as the future of the party? What would you like to see personally? What's your platform strategy for ongoing?
Sure. So the reason why I'm running is exactly the same reason as why I ran for second vice chair. It's all about returning sovereignty to our elections and security to our elections. So that's, it's all about elections. And I think it's wonderful that, Donald Trump and Mike Whatley have said that, the 3 most important things that we can do is rebuild the party, protect the ballot, and get out the vote. So, I mean, it's 3 very simple objectives. That's 3 things. There's a lot that needs to be done, particularly in Georgia. And on my website, anybody can go to that, Cross for GA or Cross for Georgia. Either one will get you there. You can see, I think I've got, at last count, maybe like 13 different committees and initiatives, that we need in order to rebuild the party and make it effective. Because going into 2026, we've got our most important elections are coming up in 2026 for the governor, lieutenant governor, for the attorney general, and for the secretary of state, and on down the list. And plus, we also have got to get rid of John Ossoff. And 26 is going to be a pivotal election. But the problem is that we had a lot of voter turnout in 24 because Trump was on the ballot. The problem we have right now is that, Trump is up in Washington, D.C. He's not going to be on the ballot to help drive people to the ballot box, in 26. So we really need to create like a Trump Force 47 clone to be able to pick up those pieces. And in addition to that, we've got several other initiatives that I want to work on with regard to like young Republicans, a sheriff's initiative, a religious initiative as well too. So I mean, there's a lot of things that we need to do in order to drive people to the ballot box in 26.
In addition to the election integrity, what are some of your other platform items? Can you give us some of those? Open some of that up for us?
Yeah, sure. So, like, one of the very first things we need to do, I think, is we need to doge the Georgia GOP. And when I say doge, what that means is we need to audit the Georgia GOP, find out like where the money's going.
When you're saying doge the GOP, you're not talking about the legislature or the state government. You're talking about the actual party.
Yeah, the party right now, because that's what I'll hopefully be running. I have no problem whatsoever doging, the the Georgia finances as well too. I think we need to take a look at that.
Right.
But in the Georgia GOP, we need to doge the Georgia GOP. And when I say that, what that means is I don't know if there's fraud and malfeasance going on, and I'm not going to presuppose that there is. But just in the last couple of weeks, I've discovered what looks like a lot of really bad financial decisions are being made, and we've got to right those. So we got to fix those. And then going forward after that, I, as chairman, I'm going to be publishing a quarterly financial report on the website so people can see, what's going on financially. We've got to rebuild trust at the Georgia GOP because there are donors large and small are not going to give to an organization if they feel like, if they give their money and it's wasted. So the only way to rebuild that trust is to just be transparent and show people, what's going on. That's one of the first issues. Another one is a young Republican scholarship. The Republican Party keeps talking about involving young people in the party, and then frequently they're told, once they express an interest, they're told, well, you need to go out and raise some money, or you need to give some money, that kind of thing, and that's just not practical, nowadays. And the reality is that we need young people. We need their ideas and their approach to things. Like one of the things I'd love to have, it would be on the communications side of things, a meme team, that's going to make fun, interesting things that are engaging for the under 30 crowd. Because honestly, memes is what's driving the internet right now. So we got to have that. And then in addition to getting young people involved, I want to have a scholarship program so that we can get 100 young people, to the state convention. And we're talking about giving them like a small scholarship of $350 to pay their cost to attend, to give them, maybe $200 to be able to help offset the cost of lodging and food and gas and that kind of thing. We're not going to pay for everything for them, but we're going to make it easier so that when the 1st of June rolls around and they're sitting there thinking, I can either go to the beach or I can go hang out with the over 50 and over 60 crowd at a political convention. And they're going to go to the beach every time. So I want to make it so that if they're interested, they can do both. We need to have a third initiative is flipping our sheriffs. There's at least 22 counties in Georgia. There's probably more, but I mean, there's 22 that I know of where Donald Trump won the popular vote in that county, but the sheriff is a Democrat. And in a lot of our rural counties, if you have a Republican sheriff, you're going to have other people are going to fall in line, behind that. And you're going to see, I think you'll see more Republicans being elected to, county positions and to boards of education, that kind of thing, because the sheriffs are very influential and we need to have them promoting Republican values. I got tons of these. I can keep going. How long do you want me to go? Because
give us a few more. Give us a few more. Just the big ones that you want to really see.
All right. So other big ones I want to have is I want to have an accountability committee. We've got a fair number of Republicans that are out there that are voting as if they were Democrats, and the accountability committee is going to accomplish two things. It's going to be able to put together metrics that show, how Republican are you and how closely are you following the party platform. And I'm also going to use it for evaluating, new candidates. So as far as like following the party platform, if you've got somebody that's out there that has an R next to their name, but they're consistently voting as a Democrat, we don't have to go out and like lambast anybody, but we can have some, some private conversations with those folks and just go and basically tell them, hey, you've got one legislative session to turn things around, or else you're not going to be able to buy an R to go next to your name. So that accountability committee, I think, is a big thing. I want to have a number of people involved in that.
I do know in Fayette County, we're starting to see exactly what you said more and more, where the actual party, the executive board of the party, is starting to look at some of the candidates who just put the R behind their name but don't really vote that way. And they're really starting to hold them accountable. So hopefully that's something that goes statewide. That would be nice to see.
Yeah, and we've got to have that. So another group is going to be the lobbying committee. So when we've got important legislation that we're trying to chase or that we want to have passed, as it stands right now, the Georgia GOP has got one lobbyist, a guy named Brad Carver. And Brad works his butt off, trying to get things passed. But the reality is he has to split his time between pieces of legislation and other clients. When I've gone down to the Gold Dome, when there's big events that are happening, I frequently come across 10, 15, 20, 25 people that say, I would love to be involved. Tell me how. Well, the lobbying committee, we can get, 15, 20, 25, people involved in that, train them on how to be effective at lobbying, break them up into groups of 3, 4, or 5 to chase particular pieces of legislation, and just make it known to the legislators that are sponsoring those bills how we want it written, what we think is important about it, what changes or edits need to have happen, and then, figure out ways to, to support that bill. And I think if we've got, 15 or 20 people that are trying to do that instead of one, I think we're going to be more effective. We also need to have training, so when I'm talking about training, I'm talking about county training. We've got counties where you'll have, like just recently, we had new elections. We've got some new county, party chairmen that are out there. And when they come in to take things over, it's like drinking from a fire hose and they don't know how to do everything. But we do not currently have like a central resource center or a call center where a county chairman can call up and go, oh my gosh, I've got somebody asking me a question about how are they supposed to run, for this position, and how do they do fundraising? What can they say, not say? How do they set up a bank account? How do they set up a PayPal donate button? We need to have a centralized resource that makes it so that a new county chairman is not out there having to chisel a wheel out of rock to try and figure out how to do things. They can just call in and get the shortcuts to figure out how to do things.
Awesome. Well, let me ask you this. What do you see I would say, from the national Republican initiatives with the national races, the congressional races, the constitutional officers, all the way down to the state and local races? What do you see as the Republicans' Achilles heel? What's something that we're just all doing it wrong, or we're not catching those people in the middle, those undecided voters, those independents? What are we doing wrong?
So I think the biggest thing is that I think we're relying too much on the Republican vote that's out there. Uh, Georgia is a really popular destination for a lot of people to move to, whether it's from California, New York, or whatever. And some of those people, when they move here, they're bringing some of their Democrat values with them, and sometimes they're bringing those values unwittingly because they just haven't been exposed to Republican values. We've got to do a better job of evangelizing that to people. Maybe evangelizing is the wrong word, but just, advertising it, broadcasting it, putting it out there. In Georgia, 40% of the registered voters are what we call independent. We don't know how they vote because they just don't participate enough. But those people truly move elections. And 40% of 7 million is 2.8 million voters. They're the largest cohort of voters that are out there. Um, I have one of my statistic pages here. I'm looking for it right now. Oh, here we go. Um, in Georgia, 28% of voters are Democrat, 33% are Republican, 40% are in the middle. And
Yeah.
we've got to convert those middle people. And me and a team of people that I've worked with last year put together a voter intelligence portal where you can see in your very own neighborhood who those independent voters are, so you can have some meaningful conversations. Like when you're walking down the street and you have a conversation with somebody, you can talk to them about these things if you kind of know how they lean.
No state's done it better than Florida. I mean, we need to look south and see what they're doing because, boy, have they turned the state completely 180 degrees.
Well, people came to their senses in Florida and figured out that our that our country was going down the toilet. And there's a little bit older crowd down there, and I think that they said, you know what, I don't want to, when I go, I don't want to leave behind, a burning garbage bin,
Yeah.
and so people really, changed their votes.
They've completely turned the Hispanic vote. I mean, the Hispanic vote was maybe a 50-50 proposition at best.
Yep.
And they are just wiping the Democrats out on the Hispanic vote now. Incredible to see. Do we have any initiatives looking at the Hispanic vote, which is, I think, about 11% of our state? Do we have any initiatives heading for that way?
We do, but the thing that we've got to do is we've got to bring those people to the table and give them resources. A lot of times when these Hispanic initiatives are started out there, sometimes they're working on the shoestring budget, and we've got to really do a better job of of empowering them with tools, resources, and money to do these things. And I got to tell you, I mean, there are tons of wealthy donors that I know that are out there that have the capacity to give, but you have to inspire them with projects like that. And a get out the vote, thing with the Hispanic voters out there. I mean, you could really move the needle with $150,000. It's not all about the money. It's about the relationships and having advocates and ambassadors that are out there that are reaching out to those communities, not just in Atlanta, but throughout the state.
Well, in your county, in Gwinnett County, the Asian population is a powerhouse. I mean, if somebody can tap into that market right there and reach those people, that's a huge number of votes in your county.
Democrats have done a fantastic job, of doing that. And when you talk about Asians, in Gwinnett, we have Indians and Pakistanis, and when I go out and see the Indian and Pakistani folks, particularly the Pakistanis, they are hugely, hugely pro-Trump. They love Trump. The Indian community, a little bit split there. And what's really interesting about the Asian community here is that we have a very large cohort of Koreans, and there are the only place where there are more Koreans concentrated in one place outside of Duluth, Georgia, is Seoul, South Korea. So it is gigantic.
I've been told some of the best Korean restaurants in the world are not in Korea; they're in Gwinnett County.
Oh, really?
So,
Okay.
in Beaufort, in that area, all the way up through Gwinnett. I mean, they said that's some of the best Korean food out there. And that's from Koreans who have flown over on business with Hyundai and all these other places. And they're like, your food's so much better than our food. So maybe we need to do like a Republican Party Korean food fest, Korean barbecue or something, and bring in the vote that way. I don't know.
I think it'd be good.
But let's narrow down a little bit now. We've talked general party stuff. Let's get into your chairmanship race. Got a video clip. You were recently at the Fayette County Republican breakfast for the GOP, and we're going to play a little clip for that.
I am attacked every single day. All right, I'm attacked every single day by a man who is using the company credit card to charge personal items. All right, we found $479 charged 5 times to his personal gym. All right, and he came out and he said, "Oh, I'm going to reimburse the party." We haven't seen that yet. He spent $132 at Brooks Brothers for a meeting. It's on the FEC forms. It says meeting. Okay. So when people want to call me out, and they, I know that I've got, a rough personality sometimes. The reason is because I call it like I see it.
All right. You laid the gauntlet down. I asked you when I heard this, I saw the footage, and one of the things that I always have to say is I said, I've got to have proof. I'm not putting anything on this podcast unless I can verify it. So, a lot of people can make allegations. I was in politics for 20 years, and let me tell you, I had all kinds of people making allegations against me over a 20-year period. None of them ever panned out. So I've said I'm not going to do that on this podcast. I asked you to send me some examples of what you just spoke about there with the disbursement of funds, claiming that the chairman was using a credit card for personal use. And with the state convention only a month away, I thought this was a big issue that we needed to look at. These are some slides that that David Cross has sent me personally. I went on the FEC website and verified these. Can you just talk us through these? Let us know what we're looking at here.
Sure. So this is a perfect example. On the top left, where it's been circled in red up there, you'll see Brooks Brothers, and it even gives the address, 5393 Peachtree Road. So there's a little Brooks Brothers place, and for those that don't know, Brooks Brothers is where you buy, dress shirts and sport coats and things like that, and socks. It's a men's clothing store. On the bottom right-hand side, you see total amount $131.96. Chances are that's probably a shirt or a shirt and tie. I mean, inflation's gotten up there nowadays, and shirts cost a little bit more. But what's really very strange about this is underneath where it says Brooks Brothers and it says City, Atlanta, and then purpose of disbursement, it says meeting. It's not
Now-
a meeting. You're not having a meeting at Brooks Brothers. And then below that, it says administrative. And then further below that, under administrative, it says federal share, $27.71, and non-federal share, $104.25. The importance of those two numbers over there is that somebody had to key those things in to allocate towards federal share and non-federal share. So, I don't know who put the information in, but I do know that somebody had to put it in. And if if things are being proofed and you're looking for things, you would find something like this. And what's really crazy about this is, so you said before, I'm in the financial services business. I've been a financial advisor for 34 years. You've got a guy that all I do is look at financial reports all the time. So this is a financial report.
Just for the viewers, what we are looking at is a portion of the Federal Elections Commission form on expenditures, right? So you can find this on fec.gov.
Yep.
And go through and find that. So this is a portion of the actual form, just so people will know what we're looking at. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, that's a great clarification. So these forms, when they come out, they're anywhere from like 50 pages long, 160 pages long, and I downloaded like everything like from the last year and a half, and I think I had like 1,600 pages. So your average person is just not gonna go through these things. But what they're required to do is the parties are required to disclose how much money came in, who gave, $100 or $25 or $10,000. They have to list everyone, individually, and then they have to list the expenses individually too. So it's supposed to give you, clarity. It's supposed to give you, transparency. The problem is that it's one thing, and the chairman right now is saying we're very transparent. We fill out all the forms. Everything's on fec.gov. The problem is the average person is going to look at this and it's going to be like visual diarrhea. I mean, it's terrible. The way that it's constructed, it's not very simple to look at, and it's very tedious to go through all of it. But this is just one that we found out of. I mean, I think I'm up to, I can't even tell you how many, transactions I found so far. I think I'm up to 15 now.
Let's go through these things that you sent me. So give us, what is this?
So Rock and Jump is a kids jump zone kind of place, where they have like, trampolines and, foamy balls and all that kind of thing. So this is, $58.27 at Rock and Jump on Cumberland Parkway in Atlanta. And again, it says purpose of disbursement, meeting, and somebody had to distribute it between federal share and non-federal share.
And this is a children's event center or recreational thing?
Yeah. You see those places where your kids or grandkids go to, and they're like jumping around on balls and trampolines and things like that. That's what it is. It's a kid's place, and there's two of those in the March report.
All right, and now here's the third one that you'd sent me. What is this?
Okay, so on the bottom right hand side where you've got the red arrow, it's $479. And what is it for? Top left, it says Alloy Personal at 6075 Roswell Road. So if you just do a Google search or a DuckDuckGo search and type in Alloy Personal 6075 Roswell Road, you'll get Alloy Personal Fitness and Training, and it's a personal fitness place. So I contacted the company. I called a young lady, I think her name was Sarah, got her on the telephone, And I said, do you have anything that costs $479? And she said, oh yeah, that's the cost of our monthly membership. I'm like, okay, great. So on this one, again, you see that it's categorized as meeting and administrative. What's really strange about this is that we found 4 of these charges in the month of March. So there was one on March 6th. I think there was 2 on March 20th and 1 on March 24th or 26th. So there were 4 charges just in the month of March, but we also found another one of these back in December of last year too. So there's 5 charges for $479.
Okay. Have you confronted the chairman, Mr. McKoon, with this, and what has his response been?
All right, so I brought it up. I brought it up actually at the Coweta County Candidate Forum that they had this past Friday. And when I did bring it up, he did not answer it. And there wasn't like a formal back and forth. But normally, if you bring up something like that with an allegation, that you're going to have the other candidates going to say something, and the chairman just chose to ignore it. But he did say he had a meeting in Chatham County on Saturday morning, a breakfast down there, and he addressed the crowd down there and said that he needed to make an apology and let people know that after the election, in 2024, he was in the worst shape of his life, and he signed up for this personal fitness trainer. Right. And I get it, people make mistakes. All right. But in this case, there's 4 charges on the same card, and it's not, and even if that it was a total accident, he didn't catch it, I did. The financial guy caught it and said, hey, what is this? And it was not only this, but hey, what about the Jumpy Playhouse, and the Brooks Brothers? And that's just the tip of the iceberg, because it gets way worse. We're finding even more money that's being paid out to his best friend.
You know specifically that these charges are directly from Mr. McKoon's card, or they're directly related to him personally and not another employee or staff member of the GOP.
So my understanding is that he has a credit card, and he really should be the only one that has a credit card. I would imagine that his administrative staff might have one, but he's already admitted to the fact that he's the one that made the charge at Alloy Fitness. We found $300 worth of of dry cleaning bills, and he's apparently admitted that those were his also, and he's reimbursed the party. But if I hadn't pressed this, I mean, I don't know that it ever would have been caught or ever would have been paid back. And that's the key fundamental issue that's going on right now, is that there are very large donors and even small donors. I mean, the Georgia GOP, if we had 20,000 people that were giving $10 a month, to kind of keep the lights on, you could move the needle at the Georgia GOP with $200,000 a month. I mean, $200,000 a month, that's $2.4 million a year. That's real money. And that's in addition to what you could bring in from large donors. But people aren't going to give if they feel like they're throwing their money into a furnace.
Let me ask you this too. On social media, in Republican circles, there's all kinds of chatter and really disregard for a non-disclosure agreement that apparently the party is making everyone running for one of these state posts sign off on, and it has some steep financial penalties, I've been told. Can you elaborate on that and let us know what that is?
Yeah, sure. So when we're running for these big positions in the Georgia GOP, the candidates normally have to sign off on a non-disclosure agreement in order to receive the list of names of the delegates who are going to be attending the convention. That list is critical for candidates to be able to get their message out so that they can hopefully be recognized and earn the vote of the delegates. Now, as it stands right now, there's a 9-page non-disclosure agreement that I was given that in previous years was only a page and a half. And the chairman has come right out and said, we know that David Cross is using the list inappropriately, to reach out to past delegates. And you know what? I don't really have a choice, number one. Number two, I'm not doing anything inappropriate. I mean, I'm sending a political message to people who are involved in the party, trying to reach out to them. I'm not marketing to these people. I'm not, going out there and saying, hey, come use my business or something like that. I'm just simply trying to reach out to them to get my message to them. But I'm being stopped right now, and I still don't have the list of the delegates at this point. Hopefully, I'll have some people that will give me some of those things in order to be able to reach out to them. But I'm not signing this 9-page NDA because in it says that if I disparage the Georgia GOP, each time that I do it, I am agreeing to a $25,000 penalty, and I don't get to determine what the word disparage means. They get to determine it. And if we go to court for some stupid reason, the attorney that wrote this thing up said, "Oh, if we have a dispute, we're gonna settle it in Fulton County." And who on earth, thinks that Fulton County has got fair courts for Republicans anyway?
What is the official position from the party on how you can use that list? I mean, what do they say? If what you're doing is wrong or bad in their eyes, or the way you're trying to use it, what do they say is the right way to use the list?
I think they're going to say the right way to use the list is to send political messages to the people that have agreed to receive messages, and that's exactly what I would do. But the problem is it's not the use of the list; it's the fact that they want to be able to lord over me and stop me from saying disparaging things about anybody in the Georgia GOP. And as it stands right now, Steve, people ask me. I've had a couple of people ask me and come to me and say, you know, you're running such a negative campaign. Can't you say something that's nice? And I said, if I had a lot of nice things to say, I wouldn't be running against the chairman. I think there's so much work to do right now. And he's going out there and saying, we have to beat John Ossoff. Well, no kidding. Okay. We have to elect, a Republican to the governor and the lieutenant governor and so on. Really? No kidding. And then he's also going out there and telling people, why do you want to take the A team, off the field, right now? And what the chairman does not fully understand is that Donald Trump won because Donald Trump had a ground game with Trump Force 47. And when he came into Georgia to round people up and get the votes, it was like having a superstar quarterback come on the field, with a great team, and Josh is the coach, and the coach could have been a corn muffin sitting on the bench, and Trump still would have won. That's where we are. I don't think he understands that. But going into 26, you can't do what you did before in 24. It's going to take a totally different approach, and it's going to take totally different motivation and team building throughout the state in order to get the wins that we need.
I noticed too in your writings you have listed some problems you've had with specific employees, staff members of the Georgia Republican Party Incorporated. You want to elaborate on that?
Yeah. So the biggest problem I have is with Josh's best friend, a guy named Travis Bowden. He from the get-go stopped me from getting an email account because he thought that I would send crazy messages to the governor, which would not have happened. But as it turned out in 2023, when I became second vice chair, I did not get an email account. I did not get a name badge. I didn't get business cards. I didn't get a tiara and a sash or money or anything. Nothing. I got nothing. I got thrown into a closet and heaped crap on me like mushrooms and slammed the door. That's what I got from Travis Bowden. He frequently reminded me that the second vice chair has no official business with the Georgia GOP. But when I become chairman, we're going to change that.
All right. Well, I think we've touched all the bases that I've been following in social media and so forth that where you've been involved. Is there anything else that you want to add to finish this off?
I would say, just go to, crossforgeorgia.com so you can see what the platform is, see what the initiatives are. If you're interested in, in following and seeing what's going on the top right-hand corner, it says, like, keep in touch with us, fill that out. And if you're a delegate or an alternate and you're going to be there in June and you want to know what you can do to help, please reach out to me. It's easy to, to do that when you fill out the contact us form. I'll see your message on there. But most importantly, when I get elected, I'm going to need everybody's help out there. This is not a one-man show. This is going to be a gigantic team effort and a gigantic team lift. But if you get enough people underneath, one of these giant stones, we can lift it up and we can be successful.
All right. Well, you've given us some ways to reach you and to find out your platform if you want to investigate further. And David Cross, we appreciate you having this discussion with us. Thank you for taking the time to do this.
Thank you, Steve.
Hey, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and share our content. We need you to help our ratings go up. We want more subscribers, and we're one of the only podcasts who will give you, the viewer, an opportunity to do a 3-minute short clip on an issue that's you're passionate about and something that you want to say. So just send us what you would like to do and tell us who our next interview should be. Go to editorialinterchange.net.